The wisest woman in the world chapter to the glass of orange juice slipped from my hand and crashed on the marble floor. The broken glass was scattered on the floor. I had held the glass absent-mindedly. Even the orange juice had been tasteless. I had sipped it absent-mindedly, and the sweet taste had been lost. It is true that even honey, said to be the sweetest thing in the world, can lose its taste if one takes it absent-mindedly. The word absent rang a painful bell in my heart. When Gladys' second marriage packed up, I had asked her what the problem really was. Jason is just a big fool. He was complaining of my being absent all the time. He doesn't understand why I have to go for auditioning for days on end. He complained that I traveled a lot. He said that I had made locations my permanent home. He called me an absentee wife. He complained that I paid no attention to him, and that he was even lonelier now than when he was a bachelor. What bloody attention does he want from me? Is he a little baby? Well, Jason behaves like a baby. A big, foolish baby. Explained that it was the nature of my job. Things fell apart, absence from home to choose between him and my career. I chose my career. Then I told Gladys what grandmother once said, men are like babies. You have to give them all your attention. All of it. However, any woman who gives her husband all of her attention will be the most loved woman in the world. Gladys had become angry. She rained curses on all men. Then she said to me, forget everything your grandmother said. Her way of thinking is past. You have to think like a modern woman. Do not be caged in a fisherman's net in this day of the internet. I looked at the pieces of glass scattered on the marble floor and shook my head sadly. The tears returned to my eyes and dropped silently. The tears of a woman who knew that the only thing that could be done to pieces of glass on the floor was to carefully sweep them into the dustbin. George, my marriage to George had crashed like this glass of orange juice. And it had scattered on the marble floor of suspicion, callousness, fault-finding, hatred, contempt, and total absence of concern. Or was it total absence of attention? My marriage to George, like these pieces of glass on the floor, had only one irreversible destination: the dustbin. The tears streamed down my face now. My marriage had failed. I said firmly to myself. I had failed my grandmother, who believed that my marriage would be happy and successful. Though she did not live to see it. She died 3 months to my wedding. I was even somewhat glad that she was not alive to witness the imminent crash of my marriage. She would have been heartbroken to learn that I chose to think the modern way, as Gladys put it. I was weak, frustrated, shattered. But I needed to be strong to go through it all. I had begun to think strongly following the Gladys option, the walking away from it all and moving on. I tried to justify why I should not pay attention to those who advised me to endure it. The situation is beyond endurance. You don't throw a fish into boiling water and tell the fish to endure it. The fish will surely die. I don't want to die. At 35, I still consider myself a young woman. I want to live and move on. However, in my dilemma, I tried to recollect what my grandmother had said about endurance. Learn to endure, to overlook, and to forget. Every marriage undergoes one form of trial or the other. When it happens, endure the pains and the frustrations. They will pass away. However, you must not fail to learn the lesson that comes with the trial. The problem with many people is that they concentrate on the problems and shun away the lessons. Don't belie them. When you have any trial, ask yourself, what lesson is there for me to learn in this trial? We'll arrive at a very beautiful destination. You will wake up one fine morning and discover that your marriage is secure, happy, peaceful, and succeeding. I sighed. My grandmother was dead, but her words were still alive in my consciousness. They were supposed to guide me to the haven of a successful, happy marriage. The problem was that I was torn apart by two worlds and two words. The world that my grandmother lived was quite different from the world that I now live. The word spoken by my grandmother about marriage was quite different from the words spoken by Gladys and most of my colleagues. I wanted to live in the two worlds and apply the words from them, but it had not worked. This had made my husband to describe me as the most confused woman in the world, and I was indeed confused. However, I knew that any time I decided to follow my grandmother's ideas about marriage, things would begin to work out fine between George and I. But I never continued that way for a long time. I often felt that following grandmother's ideas, as Gladys had put it, would make me a slave and a robot in this modern day of the internet. Then I would rebel. This had made my husband to conclude that my problem was demonic. Today an angel, tomorrow a devil, George had said. When I shared my problem with Gladys, she had said, "You must make a choice and stick to it. That is the way to move on. You must make a choice that is appropriate for the modern lady. The ideas of your grandmother are outdated. They are no longer relevant in the present order of existence." I suddenly decided to follow the Gladys example, to quit. But the children. I began to feel headache. Whenever I thought of the children, my heart would begin to beat. George would certainly keep them with him. They would suffer terribly in the hands of George. He had even told me that the day I packed out would be the day he would be bringing another woman home. That other woman would surely antagonize my children. They would be the innocent victims of the failure of George and I to build a successful marriage. I had lingered in the house of crisis called my matrimonial home mainly because of what would become the fate of my children. What then should I do? I thought for several days and found no solution. Instead, I found on daily basis enough ground to pack it up. Well, I decided to leave the bustling city of Lagos to my village, these to consult with Ezin, the oldest woman in my village, who was my grandmother's closest friend, and who we fondly called Grandma. But why consult with the oldest woman in my village? I was motivated by the words of David Livingstone, "I will go anywhere as long as it is forward."